Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII was released by Square Enix in 2007 for the PlayStation Portable. It is part of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, a number of projects expanding on the universe of Final Fantasy VII. Crisis Core is a direct prequel to Final Fantasy VII. The game literally ends exactly where Final Fantasy VII begins. Its main character is Zack Fair. You may remember Zack from Cloud's flashback to Nibelheim, the one later in the original game when he finally remembered what happened. The portrayal of Zack is this game's crowning achievement. He is upbeat, eager, personable, and most importantly the only near-normal main character in the entire game. He's easily one of the most likable characters in any Final Fantasy game. Let's go over the rest of the good things in the game, as they are very few. Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Sephiroth, Zung, and even Yuffie make appearances, and they are all true to character. The love story between Zack and Aerith is genuinely touching. It's nice seeing Aerith interacting with a boyfriend who reciprocates her interest, unlike the enthusiastic as a stone Cloud. The sequence in Nibelheim and the escape to Midgar are great when they stick to established events. The visual language of this game and its updated version of Midgar is definitely a starting point for Final Fantasy VII Remake. These are all good things. It was an important step in increasing the scope of Midgar from the original. And that's it. The rest is bad. The battle system is mind-numbingly repetitive when it isn't being disrupted by a slot machine. Yes, a slot machine. It's called the DMW, or Digital Mind Wave. I made an effort to learn more about it until I had an epiphany. Everything having to do with it is random, so what does it matter if I know how it works? That knowledge isn't going to make it any less random. It will do what it does regardless. What does the DMW control? Stat buffs, limit breaks, boosting your stats past maximum, and leveling up your character and materia. And just to be clear, this is the only way you level up. Want to save a powerful healing limit break for when you are low on HP? Can't. Instead, have fun with a healing wave immediately after you've spent a ton of MP to fill your health. Want to grind to level up? Might work, might not. Want a free MP usage buff to save for a boss who is weak to magic? Sorry, you'll get that buff when the game feels like it. Want a powerful Octaslash limit break to use on a boss? How about getting one when a normal enemy is one regular attack away from death instead? As an example of how game-breaking DMW is, consider this. At mid-game, I was struggling with a boss. This boss had a very powerful attack that could take away nearly all my health. I was quickly running out of MP and unable to heal myself in time. I was ready to adjust my tactics for the next try. Well, that was unnecessary because in my next try, I leveled up my character twice, gained a permanent boost of 500 HP, leveled up 3 different materia, unleashed a total of 12 limit breaks, and spent a majority of the time above max HP and MP. It was like I, the player, was unnecessary. The end of the game features multiple dungeons with one unique enemy type that you fight over and over and over. And by this point, every fight takes forever. It's a tedious grind, except you aren't necessarily leveling up because slot machine. The battle system is a monstrosity. But speaking of monstrosities, let's talk about the plot. Everything not directly from Final Fantasy VII is garbage. This is the main plot. As best I can sum it up, Angeal is Zack's mentor, and his best friend is Genesis, and they are all friends with Sephiroth. They're all soldiers first class. Genesis disappears and starts attacking Shinra with the help of an ex-Shinra scientist named Hollander. Turns out Hollander created Genesis and Angeal using Genova DNA to create more powerful soldiers. Unfortunately, they are degrading and dying as they were imperfect experiments, unlike Sephiroth. After finding this out, Genesis does the only rational thing, declares himself a monster, and decides that since he is a monster, he must be evil. Angeal reacts similarly, only he decides he must die. I would expect more depth and realistic motivation from a first grader's fan fiction. And what's worse is that because they are such poor imitations of Sephiroth's plot arc, it cheapens that too. The rest of the game involves Genesis and Hollander attempting to collect cells from Sephiroth to cure the degradation. And once that becomes impossible after the events at Nibelheim, they attempt to get them from Cloud after he and Zack escape Hojo's experiment in the Shinra mansion. Genesis is one of the worst characters in any Final Fantasy. He's obsessed with the Loveless play, and half his dialogue is him quoting it. What is Loveless, you ask? Remember that marquee advertising a play above Aerith when you first see her at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII? That Loveless. The one that no player knows anything about. The one that this game doesn't attempt to describe, except for the out-of-context, high school level poetry quotes that Genesis spews out at random. I feel bad that someone somewhere thought they were making a statement with this drivel. One of the most appealing parts of Zack's character is how normal he feels in contrast to this absolute nonsense. He's an avatar for the player's confusion and frustration, which only makes him more likable. The rest of the bad in this game are quality of life issues. The camera in particular is brutal, even allowing for the limitations of the PSP's single analog stick. Worse, it exploits the bad camera by putting treasure in hard-to-see locations. It's extremely difficult to get the camera pointed where you want to look, so you end up running in circles until it gets there. And on the way, you will likely get caught in multiple random battles, because they are here too, and at times they happen literally every other step. The dialogue is terrible, and the voice acting isn't much better.
Honor can be quite a burden at times. Flying feels pretty good.
Some limit breaks are awkward, to say the least.
You can do it, Zack.
Yeah! I'm on fire now!
Is this the end?
I'm trying!
There are side missions available to complete at any time through save points. There are hallways with a boss at the end. Short hallways. Sometimes there are treasure chests. You get an item for beating the boss. They reuse maps from already completed dungeons. They are disguised as missions you conduct for Shinra, but for some reason you can still complete them even after they turn on you. They are lazy, unimaginative chores, and I gave up on them after an hour. Zack is sent emails during the game detailing Shinra events surrounding the story. They do a great job of filling you in on what's going on in the background. Unfortunately, you get them randomly throughout the course of the game, and it requires you to stop what you are doing and open the menu. Sometimes you will get emails seconds apart, but only after you finished reading the first. Combined with the random battles, the tedious impossible to skip cutscenes, and the fights continually stopping so a slot machine can spin, and you feel as though this game grinds to a halt every 5 seconds. I chose to review this game because I recently finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, and remembered very little about Crisis Core other than I never finished it. I should have taken that as a warning. I always finish games unless they are a special kind of terrible. I would have checked out halfway through this game, and a dozen more times before the end, if I were not conducting this review. Its story is enragingly thin and stupid, its gameplay is repetitive when it's not completely out of your control, and it's so shoddily designed that you forgive nothing. The game does not deserve a remaster, and certainly doesn't deserve the effort required to acquire the game in a PSP to play.